Hello again. Welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert. So we're picking back up a bit after the last episode. I've been running some XNet cable. You'll notice it comes through right there. This is all going to be hidden, and it kind of just runs up this first tower. This is going to eventually run into all the towers. Let me go sleep real quick. And this XNet line is connected to the XNet system over there that's handling our brine and everything, like over here. Because we're going to be running this, I think, all through the same XNet system, you know. And I got a few things prepped today. Today, what we're going to be focusing on is getting kind of the first half of our ore processing system in place, which will pretty much be everything except for the rotary condensator side of things. So we'll be basically up to ore quadrupling, but I decided I'd like to go ahead and get this in place because it's already getting kind of material intensive between this and everything else that just having 4 times ore processing is going to make getting the 5th times a lot easier. And we're going to be starting today with kind of just like basically 4 of each machine, and then we are going to push on and keep expanding as we get more materials. It'll make it a whole lot easier to expand. So anyways, when it comes to processing ores, let me go get an ore. This is going to be our setup ore. We'll get ourselves like a stack of iron ore. Should be fine. And this thing's still kicking away. We have 64 and 10, and this is still running. I just dumped off a bunch more uranium over here. So we've got plenty of fuel. So starting out, we're going to be setting this up in a way that I can just kind of manually dump ores over next to it and let them run, because once we get ready to kind of get everything in place, we're going to be feeding them into this process, which is the chemical crystallizer, the chemical washer, and the dissolution chamber. So for now, we're going to do kind of manual input, sort of manual. We'll basically just dump a crate next to a machine and let it run. But the first thing that we're going to be needing is the chemical injection chamber. And this is actually, let me find my purification, or well, it's the enrichment chamber will be the first thing that we're going to need. And then bring it over here and we turn it into purification chambers. And then we bring it over here and turn it into, no, that's not the right one. It's this one. It's this one. Chemical injection chambers. There we go. We're going to go ahead and get ourselves 4 of these, and we're going to be turning everything into factories today. So over here I do have some basic tier installers. These do stack beautiful up to 16, and we have advanced tier installers. This is actually more than what I need for today, but I went ahead and laid out a few of these because they're actually really cheap. Steel casing, redstone, all that stuff's free. You know, we duplicate the circuits. Even though I did go with the advanced control circuits for the 2nd tier, just because I have more of this stuff than I do like glowstone. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go with these for that, because that's just iron and redstone basically. So what we're going to do, each of these towers is going to be ore processing. It's not going to be like a specific building necessarily, but it's going to be spread out across these 8 towers on the 2nd floor. Basically, my idea is the first floor will be lasers. The 2nd floor, which will be in here, will be ore processing. And then the 3rd floor, I actually kind of have an idea for running big reactors up out of the top, kind of. It's kind of what I'm thinking. That may change, but we'll see. We shall see. I want to make use of all these towers and just have this big monstrous ore processing system. So what we're going to do, we're going to say that, let me go get some cobblestone. And we're basically going to have it set up in a way that you can just travel up it via elevator up to the top. And then, of course, the top, you can walk between the different towers. You can also walk between the different towers, or you will be able to from, you know, this layer here. You'll be able to kind of just walk around to each of these. So basically, the middle floor will be the only one that's not accessible except via elevator. I guess, and getting up to the top, of course. So we're going to run out our floor and have it be here. So like right in here. And I'm going to leave that open for now so that I can kind of move between these. But what we're going to do is we're basically just going to have machines. Lots and lots of machines. Oh yeah, I still got to fix that. And I guess what we're probably going to do is have maybe a wall that's dedicated to the rotary condensator section, and then everything else just be kind of lined out machines. It's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, eventually we're going to have a lot of machines over here. So we're going to go ahead and put our first 4 chemical injection chambers, just like here, I guess. And we're going to use advanced connectors for these. That way we can access any side, because of course mechanism is a little bit specific as to you can't really have input output on the same side. It's a little bit more specific in the way that we set this up. And let's go ahead and just run this over. Now the chemical injection chamber does require, for it to process, it does require that we have hydrogen chloride. So we're going to set up some processing for that in just a moment. But first up, let's go ahead and just apply our tier installers. And these are going to turn these into factories, basic factories. And then we're going to put on the advanced tier. There is one more tier, but the other tier is a little bit costly for me to even try to bother with right now because it requires plutonium. Now to make our hydrogen, we're going to have to set up some liquid processing. And over here I have a few electrolytic separators. And to actually do this, we're basically going to have to take hydrogen and some chlorine to make hydrogen chloride in the chemical infuser. But to get our hydrogen, we need to process down water to get hydrogen and oxygen. And to get our chlorine, we need to process down brine, all of which is in the electrolytic separator. So we're going to go ahead and these don't stack. Wonderful. I should have known. We're going to go ahead and set up basically some liquid processing here. And we're going to start off over in this building, because this is the building that's going to handle all of our gases and liquid kind of related to ore processing. So we're going to say right in here, we're going to have some electrolytic separators set up, and we can actually just line these up like this because of the way that we're going to be handling stuff via the advanced connectors. And I think over here we'll probably have let's do advanced connectors along the top. And then we can put another line of electrolytic separators and just kind of have these stacked. Now, eventually, we're going to have a lot of them over here. We're going to have them laid out kind of like this. Then we're going to have some advanced connectors run over the top of that. And then what we'll do is just have an XNet line that connects up through that. And then we can facade it once we're ready. And we'll just run this out right here. And we're just going to plug it into the XNet system. And what we're going to do is we're going to label these, and we're going to say on the bottom, we're just going to call this water, because it's going to copy that to both of these. So we're just going to label these out as water. And then the top one, we're going to call these brine. Because this is basically going to tell us, once we get over there to set up, this will basically be telling us what kind of liquid we're going to be pumping into these. Because it does make it just a little bit easier for us. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we should see all those machines connected up. We're going to turn channel 7 into XNet Energy, and we're going to turn channel 8 into XNet Item. And let me go ahead and channel 6, we're going to go ahead and just delete this one, and we're going to turn this into Mechanism Gas. So we'll have gas, energy, items, and the rest of these will just be handling fluids. And then we're going to come down and we're going to, our electrolytic separators, these connectors that have water as the filter, we're going to go ahead and copy one of these to the clipboard. And then we're going to come down and the electrolytic separators that are labeled with water, we're going to go ahead and just paste. And this one, that one. I think it'll be like these first 8. Water, and then I think the rest of these are going to be brine, right? Yeah. So if we take a look here, these should be filled up with water. They are, and they are creating hydrogen and oxygen for us. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's go ahead and plug up some energy into this, because as of right now, the flux point is setting right here, but it's not actually feeding energy to this. So I'm going to put a connector onto this, and then we'll just run this down And then our flux point right here, we're going to go ahead and say that you can extract energy. This will be on channel 7, which is our energy line. You can extract there. And then we're going to come through and we're going to say that the rest of these can just all insert. And we're just going to copy that and go through and paste that, because we do need to insert energy into these mechanism machines. And now if we take a look, we should have plenty of energy in these. That's great. And we will get to upgrades. But I think it might be easiest if we go ahead and get some processing up first. Now what we're going to do here is the bottom ones, we're going to say the bottom ones are going to be hydrogen. And so the side that has the oxygen, we're going to go ahead and say dump excess on these. Dump excess, dump excess, dump excess. And then the ones that have hydrogen, we're going to say dump excess on these. So once it reaches a certain threshold, it's going to dump off some of that hydrogen. That way it can keep running and creating oxygen, because we're going to need both oxygen and hydrogen today. And that way we just have one. So that basically prevents us from having a point where they're all backed up with the same material and none of them are running, creating, say, oxygen, and they're backed up on hydrogen. But we're going to try to make use of all the gases that we're making. Now over here, let's go ahead, let's just copy one of these that are extracting for just a second. And we're going to come down to these 4 brine ones. And we're going to go ahead and just paste one of these, and we're going to change it to insert. We want to insert brine from this. And you can see it's now creating some sodium, and it's creating chlorine for us from that brine. And the sodium, we're going to go ahead and just say dump excess, because we're probably going to use some of that, but what we really need right now is chlorine. Alright, so now what we need to do, we have to get some infused diamonds to actually start making use of this. So we are going to make those. And I think it's just diamond with, just diamond with dimensional shards. Now, I don't know how many dimensional shard ore I have over here. I did speed up the laser. But yeah, we have 11. So that's not bad. So let's see what we get out of 11 dimensional shard ore. Oh, that one was 9 for that one. Out of 11, we got a stack and 17. And I had some other dimensional shard ore, and I don't know what I did with it, to be honest, but this should be enough. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and craft ourselves our chemical infusers at this point. I do have a bit more infused diamonds. I've got some more dimensional shard ore. I just don't know where I put it, to be honest. I stuck it somewhere, and I can't remember where I put it. That's why we've got to get storage and kind of item sorting and stuff in place. Okay, so for these, let's set them up. I don't know if I just want to go on the opposite wall, or if we just want to use this wall. Though I think maybe eventually this might be water. We'll see. Well, now, let's set them over on this wall. This should be fine. And since we're using advanced connectors, once again, we can just place them all like that, because we can manage everything through the advanced connector very, very easily. Advanced connectors are great with like mechanism or anything that's like really side specific, because it can handle any side at once. It doesn't really matter too much. And we'll just label these out as hydrogen. Okay, it's a little bit after the fact, after doing the setup, but I was editing the footage, and no joke, I had like 2 hours of footage where I was just messing with the XNet system and trying to get it to work and trying to like troubleshoot it and bug test it. Had a lot of issues getting this set up, where I really shouldn't have, because the advanced connectors can do specific sides. So we have, these are labeled like hydrogen, and then we have water mix, since it names both connectors, and then we have water brine, because this one's doing brine, and then over here we have just the chlorine. And I ended up laying these out like this, because I found that the advanced connectors really did not work correctly. When I was just pulling out from one connection on multiple channels, it just had a lot of issues with it. This was no joke, a super nightmare. And when I finally did get everything set up, I discovered that oxygen, for some reason, was randomly getting voided. Like, all of it. It wasn't like just a little bit was getting lost somewhere. It was like all of it. If I had it go into a tank as kind of a buffer, Sodium's fine, chlorine's fine, hydrogen's fine, but if I set up an oxygen tank, it just goes somewhere. Even though there's nothing that's accepting oxygen, nothing that's, using it for anything, but that oxygen just goes off somewhere and just vanishes in the XNet system. But it's really, really strange. Like over here, the oxygen's just hanging out. And not, it's not running right now or doing anything. The oxygen's just hanging out. Over here, it's supposed to be dumping excess, but it's still just kind of it's vanishing a little bit. I don't know where it's going. I've tried to figure out where it could be going, and I don't know. To be honest, it's like XNet does not like oxygen whatsoever. All the other gases seem fine, just oxygen. But like I said, I had a tank here as a buffer. It didn't seem to work out, at least with the mechanism tanks. Right now I just have basics. I'll eventually upgrade those. But yeah, like I said, oxygen, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know where it's going because there is like nothing inserting on a line, but oxygen's still getting pulled out of the tank and just vanishing into thin air. So I don't know what's going on with that. And over here, these work perfectly fine. The chemical infusers work perfectly fine with advanced connectors. So all of these are producing hydrogen chloride by combining the hydrogen and the chlorine. So as you can see, we're backed up on hydrogen. I've ran a lot of ores through this, but it runs extremely fast. We'll talk more about that later on this episode. But if we take a look inside of here, you can see I've dropped the liquid channels 5 and 6. And we have the hydrogen and the chlorine tanks are extracting on channel 6. They're being inserted into on channel 5, and they do have filters. This is a basic gas tank with chlorine. This is a basic gas tank with hydrogen. They seem to work perfectly fine with the basic gas tanks as their filters. But just know that the electrolytic separators are extracting on channel 5. It's then going into a tank that kind of acts as the buffer, and then it's extracting again on channel 6 and coming over then to the chemical infusers where it's being inserted and then extracted. The hydrogen chloride then being extracted on channel 5 and sent over to the factories on channel 5. So that's the way I have it laid out. It seems to be working fine this way, but like I said, for some reason I cannot have a gas tank for oxygen. It just voids it, and I don't know why. If you guys have any ideas, I don't know. Like I said, I would literally have nothing else on the gas line except for extract from the machines, insert to the tanks, and it would still void oxygen. Like, it wasn't even supposed to be extracting from the tanks, but it was still just voiding it. So I don't know. I didn't have it set to dump. It was just set to idle like these are. I did a bunch of tests. I don't know. I never could figure out why that is, but XNet just did not seem to like the oxygen whatsoever. So these are filled up with hydrogen chloride, and let's make sure that our hydrogen chloride's not dropping for no real reason, like the oxygen seems to enjoy doing. Nope, it's just going up. Now, at this point, our liquid stuff is done. That was a headache and a half, I'll tell you what. So now what we're going to do, let's grab our small storage crate and these item conduits. And this part's just going to be kind of temporary, the way that we're going to do this. But what we're going to do, we're going to set up a small storage crate. This is going to be kind of where the ore processing system starts. And we're going to set up a line of, well, actually, where's their default? It's on the top. Okay, so we're just going to have it do on the top here. That'll be fine. It won't really change anything. So we're going to do that. And we're going to say that you can extract, you can insert on all of these. This is going to be kind of our only item conduits. Everything else is going to be handled by XNet. And that's because eventually our ore input, like probably next episode, our ore input is not going to be here. It's going to be one machine set back. And that's what's going to allow us to quintuple instead of just quadruple. So if we throw in iron ore, we should say that's going to start going into these. And we're going to set auto sort to on for this so that it can process a little bit faster. Now all the stack has gone into this one. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. But this is going to start processing down and making us iron shards. Okay. And once again, we will add upgrades to this in due time. But okay, so that's working, and it's going to start making us iron shards. Now at this point I am going to be doing a lot of filtering, so we'll kind of add things as we start processing new ores. So I'm going to grab some of these iron shards, and we're going to set up our next machine. Iron shards are basically going to go straight into a purification chamber, which is going to be using up our oxygen. So what we'll do, let's pop over and get ourselves our purification chambers real quick. And to get our purification chambers, we're going to have to make enrichment chambers. And then these get crafted then into purification. And we'll just pop back over and set these up. And these are going to be setting... Actually, ideally, they'd be setting there. I'm going to set the inputs for this on the front side for now. Just because ideally I'd like to be able to set these machines directly on top of these. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and place out our purification chambers now. And we're going to take our tier installers. And once again, we're going to upgrade these. At this point, basically once you hit the injection chamber, then at that point you can pretty much make everything into factories and everything runs at pretty much the same speed. It's the quintupling with the rotary condensator and all that that's kind of weird, because you can't make factories with that stuff, which we'll talk about that next episode. So the purification chamber, and we're going to run some advanced connectors just over the top here, and let's see, and then we'll just connect this up, basically run this up like so, plug that in. And in addition to the purification factory, let's go ahead and pop over, and we're also going to have a crusher, a set of crushers here. But let's set up our crushers like this, and then up above that, and then we're going to grab ourselves 4 enrichment chambers, and we'll just fly back over. And this is what's going to clean the dust after it comes out of the crusher, and then it'll still have to be smelted, so we'll handle that. But we'll go ahead and just run that out like so. I could have swore I had more advanced connectors. I probably do. But let's go ahead and just upgrade these into factories. There we go. And we'll go ahead and run this up. And then of course our connectors will run across there. May have to get 4 more, that's fine. I used a lot more today than I expected, because I wasn't expecting to have to double up on a lot of this, but we did have to. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to pop in, and we're actually going to start using our item line at this point. So our... ooh, I hate the fact it doesn't show what factory this is, though. I may have to label these. But we're going to say you can extract... I may have to do this side specific, we'll see. But if I have to, that's fine. So we're going to go the downside, and we're going to say, first up, we're going to go ahead and just copy this. This is our power line, so let's make sure all these have power. It's funny because they do get a little bit charged because I'm plugged up with the XNet system, so it automatically charges things in my inventory. Now the purification chamber, we're going to say that you can insert, and it's going to be filtered to be iron shards. Okay, so we're going to copy that and paste that in. And let's go check and see if this actually inserted. Okay, it hasn't yet, probably because of this. So what I'll do is I'll say that the top side, which really I guess output, yeah, actually instead of doing all this mess, and real quick we're going to set up our sides. Now really, if we had a different way that we were running power over, we could pretty much just have it go right up, kind of like what we're going to do with this here in just a second. But we're going to go ahead and say that the bottom side is going to be input on these, and the top side is going to be our extras, and then we'll have the back side be output. Okay, and then once again, input, output, extra, input, output, extra. and input, output, extra. Okay. And what we're going to do for these, we're just going to simply have these auto output and sort on. Oh, let's see. I do need to start sending oxygen into this. So what I'm going to do, let me just grab this oxygen one for just a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and set up and say, that should be this one, right? Well, actually, it'll be the only ones that are configured where it's on the upside. So that's an easy way to know without having to go through and label all these. Okay, so we're going to say right here, insert is oxygen. And let me take a look here. It did send it. Once it had oxygen to actually run it, it sent it up. Okay, so that's great. So now it's taking those iron shards and it's turning them into iron clumps. Now let's grab ourselves a couple clumps because we're going to actually have to move that up into the crushing factory, but we're done messing with gases and everything seems to be behaving now. I just can't have a buffer for oxygen. It's what it comes down to. I just cannot have it. All right, so what we're going to do is these factories here, we're going to create on the item line, and we're going to be extracting in this case, and it's going to be on the well, what would be the back side? That would be the south side. So we're going to say this is going to be all happening on the south side, and then it's going to be sending it to the crushers. So we're going to say that you can insert, it's going to be iron clumps, and we'll just copy that, paste it, paste it, paste it. And if we take a look now, the crusher should be getting iron clumps, and we'll have to turn on sort for those, but well, let me go ahead and turn on sort. And what's the default? There we go. I'm going to set it to the bottom is red for input. Input and input. And we're going to change the top to output on these. And we're going to say auto eject is on, because we don't really need XNet to plug in for this, because it's just going to send it straight up to the enriching factory. The enriching factory is going to take that dirty iron dust and just clean it. No liquids or anything like that required for that. Alright, so these, we're going to go ahead and say that you get items from the bottom. You get items from the bottom, and you can see some's dropped in here because there was a little bit of power in there. Not much, but just a little bit. Input. Input. And then we just have to run some power to this. So let me go get some connectors. Okay, so there is our other 4 advanced connectors. And then, well, let's go ahead and get the smelting up and going. And for that, we, well, one second. I forgot the glass. I think I set it up and I was like, well, I'll go get the glass in a second. And let's go ahead and get ourselves a few energized smelters, and we got a quest complete for that. And we'll go ahead and lay out those, and these are going to get upgraded as well. There we go. Okay, and then we'll just set up the rest of this. It's going to be, for this filter, it is going to be, well, I don't have any yet, so let me get power ran over. The power. Now, like I said, we will do speed upgrades to this, and we'll continue expanding on it. I'm going to hold off, though, on the speed upgrades, because we're going to have to speed up our brine and stuff before we can really speed all this up. But there is our pulverized iron, and then let's just go set this up in a filter and have it get sent over to these. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for these factories, these are going to be on the downside. You can insert, but only pulverized iron, which that'll get some more things added to the filter. Of course, right now we're just processing iron. And then we can say that you're going to extract And I do need to check the sides on this. And we'll go ahead and set sort on these as well. Sort just allows them to basically spread the items out across this, making processing faster, of course. So output, we're going to say is on the top. And then we're going to say that you can input, and input. Okay, so that's going to start then taking the pulverized iron, smelting it into iron ingots. Now, granted, we could go with a different furnace. I'm going to stick with the advanced smelting factory. It's a little bit more fun. And in addition, it runs at the exact same speed as everything else, so it can kind of keep up with all of this stuff. And I was thinking I might do 2 walls of rotary condensators just because they're so slow. Maybe even 3 walls. Because really, once these are fully upgraded to where they're doing 7 processes at a time, and they have speed upgrades, and we finish filling out this wall, if we don't have at least 2, maybe even 3 walls of rotary condensators, it's just not going to keep up. Because it's 3 machines per process, and it can't really be sped up as much as these can. So I don't know. We'll kind of see how things go for that step. Alright, so now what I need to do, I need to get 2 ender chests, because we're going to be sending this out via ender chest. And there is our... oh, wait. Just a little bit short on the obsidian. There is our ender chest. Okay, now as far as colors go, though I guess I could just send it in on the white. No, I think I'd rather send it in on its own unique color, I think. We're just going to set it up right here. And we're going to say that... oh, I must already be using gray. Okay, wait a second. Let me do gray, white, gray then. So we'll say that you can extract is always active. And then what we'll do is we'll put that in right there. Gray, white, gray. And we'll run out some conduits. And we're going to make sure that these are set to output on the top side. And I'll probably have to put some speed upgrades in this eventually. But right now this should be plenty fast, I think. And insert. There we go. So it's going to start sending the iron over. And then if we pop over to the storage building and we insert iron into one of these. Now we could go with like compacting drawers, but I think these are going to be fine. I tend to not like going with compacting drawers with something that I'm going to plug up with AE2 because it can get a little bit buggy. So I try to avoid that, to be honest. Okay, so that's all set up. So now I can start processing the metals and sending them over automatically. So now what we need to do is just pop over and just grab up a bunch of metals, a bunch of things for us to start running. So let's just go with like iron for right now. And let's go with some gold too, so we can cover adding that into filters. So if we throw gold into one of these, it's going to get spread out, it's going to start running, and then we'll toss in all this iron, because that should then get sent out to these injecting factories. You could tell we need speed upgrades here probably, but we'll get to that. And let's also set this to round robin, so it can kind of spread out between these a little bit better. So the gold's ran, it's made some gold shards. Now right here it's going to stop going anywhere. Or, well, it should. Oh, it's actually... okay. I didn't think about that. But it's seeing all these as kind of the same thing. Perfect. That's even better. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So it's matching metadata. Because these would all be, like if we take a look, for example, these would all be metadata matched. So I think it's what, F3 and H. And we can see, yeah, advanced tooltip shown, F3 and H. And you could say that our metadata is what's different. So it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the shards are kind of being seen as the same thing. So that's perfect. Okay, so we can process like gold. Now, some of this stuff's going to be a little bit different. We're going to process it. We're going to handle it a little bit differently. I'm not sure about, like, uranium. Well, we can still process that. Oh, Jyoka mod is allowing us to do that. Perfect. So, yeah, at this point, we could just throw in everything, and it would get processed. I'm going to process some... oh, can we do, like, boron and stuff? I bet we can. Yeah, we can. Perfect. Perfect. Let's do, like, all the things. And right now we'll do it kind of manual because there's certain things that I actually will need, and there's certain things I'm not going to need that much of right now. But then to come next episode, we can get the dissolution and stuff in place. Up here on the insert, we're going to go ahead and say round robin on this. And that way it's going to round robin all the items, because it doesn't really need to go priority on anything. It just needs to round robin across the factory, which will be spread out on all the towers. But if it round robins, yeah, there we go. Now all of our machines are running a lot better, and this should speed up our overall kind of ore processing at this point. It's still super slow, but we have a lot of room to kind of speed this up at this point. And down the road, if we find... I mean, my goal is to make this fast enough down the road. Of course, we're going to have to speed these up. We're going to have to speed up all of this. We're going to have to speed up all of that. But down the road, I would like to have it fast enough that we could be processing the builder, the lasers, all that stuff as fast as the stuff is coming in, just processing it. Just, you know, just crazy fast. But, oh, there's my dimensional shards. I found you. But realistically, that's something that's going to take us a little bit to reach, because it's going to take a lot of power. It's going to take a lot of just stuff in place to make it work, but that's our goal. It's one of our big goals for this series, is to make just a ridiculous ore processing system. But we got the first step in place, and this is just going to make it a lot easier for me to make all the rest of the stuff. And I did speed up, like the electrolytic separators, they both have 8 and 8. They're consuming, they get up to about 5,000 per tick. And then these also are a bit faster. They're actually backed up right now, which is good, because you know, they're not going to consume power whenever they're not needing to do anything. And I did speed up over here. I went ahead and bumped this up to 4 and 8 on these at the moment. You can see they process a bit faster. We're still going to go up to 8 speed upgrades. 500 RF per tick. That's actually not that bad. Yeah, 500 RF per tick, not that bad. Now, right now, there's a little bit of a disparity with the injecting factory, because it's taking the ores and it's making 4 shards. So all these other machines are having to do a lot more work than the injecting factories, but that's going to change once we get to quintupling, because once we get to that, it'll be taking crystals and making shards 1 to 1. Then this whole process is what's going to give us the duplication. So for right now, the injecting factories they're kind of lazy, but that's okay, because that'll change once everything's all plugged up and going. I feel like the extraction on the XNet's kind of weird. Oh, you know what? It's because I'm moving singles. We need to change these to stacks. That's going to make everything run a bit faster. Oh, you know what? I don't think the Jyoka, or whatever, I don't think that's actually going anywhere, so let me fix that real quick. I may have to do the same thing. I don't know if it's going to see all these now, or if it's only going to see the boron ones. I'm not sure. It looks like we're going to have to add these individually, like the lithium and stuff, and the uranium stuff from JOPCA. It's seeing it, but you'll notice that it doesn't have meta. That's the problem. So we'll probably have to add these in individually, I suppose. So right now I just kind of have to keep an eye out and find spots where kind of things are getting stuck, like aluminum probably going to get stuck right here. So we'll have to grab that and put that in. But once we get this added in, of course, we can copy and paste all of our filters, so it's not really a big deal. We have 40 stacks of iron now. 10 stacks of gold, there's some uranium, lots of osmium coming in. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going ahead, I'm putting full emerald upgrades into these drawers, because we're actually going to have metals probably going in a few different places, because there's going to come a point where we're going to have to send all of our metals to dense storage, basically storing it into black holes, so we can store billions in each one. But for now, we're going to fill out those drawers, because I can't make black hole tanks at the moment. But we're going to fill out those drawers, and then we'll add that stuff in, later on down the road. So chunking through. It looks like lithium. I'm probably going to have to add that to the smelters. Also, well, actually, I think it's just lithium at the moment. It's making IC2 lithium dust, which is fine. I think this can smelt like normal, right? Yeah, it's going to make nuclear craft lithium. Perfect. Look at all that lithium. I was short on lithium the other day, and now we're going to be swimming in the stuff. It's going to be great. I need to bring more stuff over. Copper might come up. We'll see. Now, as far as gems and things like that, we're going to have to process them a little bit differently. We're going to be setting up for those just like right after we finish this. This is the most important. I think platinum we can process. Yeah, great. Though platinum's rare enough, we could probably just wait on the platinum and get a little bit more output. Though, I guess really I have tons of the stuff at the moment. You know what? We're just going to go ahead and throw it in here. It's not like it's going to matter. Really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter a bit. There's our thorium. Because right now, we just kind of want to get all of our filters set up more than anything. We are in business, so I just kind of have to keep an eye on this, and keep it running between episodes. We should have tons of materials come next episode, I imagine. We'll never be hurting for metals again, I don't think. After this runs for a little bit, I think we'll be good, so... Anyways, I'm going to end this episode out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. Stay updated with when new videos come out. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care. Stay safe. I'll see you guys then.